Hi traders, this is Brad Gilbert with the FX Market Insight for the 12th of Feb. All right, as we come into the Tuesday Asian session, the major currency pairs pretty much just churning away like they have been the last sort of week or so. So the Aussie and Kiwi have been running out of a little bit of steam. They are sort of still slowly moving with the big brother Euro, which has just got such a gorgeous downtrend at the moment, breaking down through 113. You can see that little buckle as it sort of went under there. I think you'll find sellers back towards 113 in Euro, and that could be the next trade to be looking for. Now, so these other pairs, like the Aussie and Kiwi, right, there's some big events coming out. Well, more for the Kiwi. We've got the RBNZ tomorrow. So we've got 24 hours to wait for that. You would expect it to just to continue what it's doing, a bit of sideways trading up until then. But we do have some Aussie home loan data out today, so that may come into play. Now, the big overall mover, sterling. Now, I think Steve mentioned it in the 247 trade zone. The UK GDP numbers were scheduled and they came out pretty rough and tumble. The manufacturing production numbers, everything was pretty skewy. Now, if I just take you across and give you a look at these numbers, you can start to see why. You get a bit of a negative picture with Brexit, and then you throw on top some really crap economic numbers, and then you've got the recipe for a bit of a major sell-off. So still, to me, it's still very hard with the overall setup of Brexit in the background, but the economics are starting to weigh. This balances out a bit of the positive tone that's been sitting in the market as far as high inflation, etc. goes. So the estimate came out weaker than expected. The manufacturing production numbers, they're almost I'd say as aggressive as the prelim GDP numbers. These were minus 0.7. This is like the wheels completely falling off, right? Construction's down. Now, I've been speaking to a lot of the guys in the UK, and a lot of businesses, a lot of construction, a lot of development, everything's been put on hold because they want to know what's going to happen with Brexit. So these numbers here, although bad, are expected to get a lot worse. So this is the ramifications of this thing rolling on and rolling on. They need to get a solution. Otherwise, consumer confidence, business confidence, everything will start to fall off like it has. And this is the major catalyst for that sterling sell-off. So, and you come back to, if I just take you back to the chart, it's actually quite interesting because you look at the move in sterling, right? And it's pretty orderly. It's down to like 70 points. Which in normal sort of trading conditions isn't a lot. Okay, it's the market's sort of down here, 70 ticks. You get one little announcement out of Brexit, it'll rally or fall 150 points. So to me, those numbers are not really having the same impact they would. If this is normal market conditions, sterling would have dropped 150 points. But people are laying off sterling. They're not getting involved because of the uncertainty in Brexit. Now, I did read just a short while ago, there's a headline, some lunatic out of the UK saying, we had some really constructive discussions today. Anything like that and a good result, sterling will be back at 131 in a heartbeat. So that's what I mean. The trading opportunities in sterling is what I'm trying to say is they are very short term because you're going to see massive spikes around any announcements coming out about Brexit. So we are seeing the fundamentals kick in there though, which is good to see. Now, dollar CAD, look at all these other pairs. I mean, I know Aussie and Kiwi have sort of stalled a bit, but they are still moving lower. Euro's got that gorgeous setup. Sterling, outside of those spikes, is still moving lower, correcting lower from that move higher. Dollar yen has started to join the bandwagon. It likes it higher at the moment as well, which tells me everyone's sort of happy with everything that's going on. Dollar CAD, because of the mixed fundamentals, is having a lot tougher time, the dollar rallying against the CAD. So it's the one currency pair, which to me, you probably want to kick to the sidelines just at the moment because it's not that gorgeous. All right, so then you come back to, now what's the impact on the US dollar, the dollar index? So I'll show you the news headlines in a second. I mean, they're all jumping up and down. This is the longest day rally, or longest rally, continuous days since 2017, would you believe? I think it's 8th day where the US dollar has just slowly ticked higher. Now, just bear in mind, the dollar hasn't gone a hell of a long way, right? It hasn't gone a long way, and we are lacking a huge amount of fundamentals. So the picture here on the US dollar, I still think it goes higher, but the picture could change very quickly if we start to get some crazy fundamental numbers coming out of the US once they work out what they're doing. And then also, as you come into, what's coming up also is the next US government shutdown. So that's another major issue. But look for the sensitive parts of the market, the equity markets, right? They aren't moving at all. So that the equity markets, risk on, risk off, they're always looking about growth. So there's no issues with the US-China situation at the moment. That doesn't seem to be coming into play. There's no concerns about the US economic growth. I mean, everything's pretty neutral. If anything, looking at these equity tables here, you'd think the markets were shut. Now, the dollar yuan, the offshore yuan, as I said, US-China, well, we haven't got any fresh information about this. As expected, I mean, it's easy to say, hard to trade, but what we've got is a situation where it's just slowly falling. The dollar is rallying against China, as you'd expect. I mean, two different economies, but the tariffs, we'll see later in the week with the Chinese CPI numbers, what's going on there, see how they're impacting. All right, now let's just have a quick flick across to the news so I can sort of give you a bit of coverage on what's coming out here, what's real or what's not. So much fake news out there at the moment. So the major thing here, trade woes, EU slowdown, pushed dollar to 2019 high. I think Mark mentioned it. He had a nice trade in the 247 trade zone on the euro, selling back towards, I think it was around 113.13. Like, there's no change in the trend at the moment. The US dollar is rallying because Euro, Sterling, Aussie and Kiwi are all coming off and they're pushing the dollar up. This is not strong US fundamentals. It's weak fundamentals in other currencies. So when they're talking about EU slowdown, they're referencing like last week's data. Like, this is just ridiculous. I know it's Monday and there's not a lot to talk about, but they're just rehashing, the growth numbers last week were weak in the Eurozone. Well, I can tell you, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mario Draghi came out and told us that the growth was falling off. So that was the time to get short. Pound drops as UK economy slows sharply. That's right. I think the whole impact of Brexit is really taking a toll, not only on the economy, but also on the people. China, we'll watch for some trade talks. This is the thing up here I was talking about. The next US government shutdown. Trump has really put it to the Democrats and said, basically, the next one's on you. The next shutdown's on you, so work it out. I mean, it's just an absolute joke, the way everyone's handling this. And that's pretty much it as far as the news goes. So when you come back to really get stuck in to the major pairs, whoops, wrong currencies. If you go into the 247 trade zone, actually, while I'm here, you'll find in there's traders are posting trades. Now, Mark posted a great trade there on Euro. I know Tim was actually looking at the same one. It's a good way to get a bit of confidence around your general trade ideas and thinking, well, where am I going with this? This is the way the 247 trade zone was designed to work. All right, so if I just come back to, I just want to come back to the charts just quickly. Now, what we're looking for is we've got really good direction here, right? So what you need to do is, I know someone was asking me, said, well, what about all your trend lines? They seem to be a bit out of whack. I'm like, well, you know what? I've just left them there because there's nothing really else to really go by. But you should start to draw the new resistance lines. Now, this Kiwi one, for instance, may come into play tomorrow with the RBNZ. But what I'll be doing is just... My web search turned something. Siri's just gone a little bit mad there on the phone. So what we'll be doing is, this top trend line is no good to me, is actually just go through and update your support and resistance lines accordingly. Okay, now there is a new one forming here on the Kiwi. What I like to do is actually just draw them and actually then reassess afterwards. Now that new trend line's there, what you do is you just blow it up. I'm just trying to work out where I can actually get in. So now, to me, just on the face of it, that looks too steep for me. If anything, this is where, and I know a lot of traders use horizontal lines, but what you're looking at is a situation where, you know what, see how it's dipped, topped out here and hasn't been back above that level. So 67.70 to me looks like a pretty good level where we might find some selling with the real resistance line at the top. Now, you're going to go through this process. This is like a daily process anyway, not just, not just right now. I'm just trying to show you the way you should be sort of going about it. So as these currencies do move in their trend, you want to keep up to date with where your current support and resistance lines are. and you will end up with, not only the main one, but a secondary, a third line, potentially fourth as well. Aussie, let's go a little bit more of a structure to it than the Kiwi. Probably back towards 71. I'm not going to draw that resistance line there, where Euro looks pretty good. Sterling looks solid as well. And since dollar yen does break, I'll be leaving that line there, and dollar CAD looks fine as well. All right, so that's a bit of backbone on the technicals. I know a few traders were asking me about that. Now, coming back to the MyFX Trading Hub, we've got, just having a look at, we have good, clear trading conditions. There's not a hell of a lot on the radar today. Okay, I know I was just trying to tune up the Aussie data. It says the 11th, but this is the 12th. We've got home loans and NAB business confidence numbers. That's all we've got through the next few sessions. Okay, so there's not a lot of data to follow, but we do have the Aussie is sort of on its knees. It needs another good kick in the belly to get it moving to the downside, and this data may be the one to follow. But outside of that, we do have good direction. So when you're looking at your major pairs, okay, we've got direction here. You just need to find the pairs that have good technical setups and then get your trades in the market, because over the next 24 hours, I can't see these trends changing, okay, unless Trump does something absolutely stupid, which is possible, because there's no major news releases or anything else coming out. So we've got good trading conditions. We've got some data. Look for the trades that are in play. All right, and you'll find those in the 247 trade zone. As I said, it's there for your benefit. Now, coming back just to the data coming out now, have a look across the board. Now, I've highlighted the Aussie home loans data there. What you want to do is actually come through and actually have a look across the board at everything. So now, housing, I've got the housing finance numbers highlighted because the Australian market, the RBA is very concerned about the housing crisis. It's almost like the subprime crisis 2008, 2009, or 2007 when it started in the US. It's not that bad, but the debt levels in Australia are catastrophically crazy. But this number here, it comes out at the same time. This is an advertising number for NAB, one of the big banks in Australia. This number is inconsequential, but I've seen the numbers go crazy and actually impact the currency 0.75%. So just be aware, just because they're low impacting numbers doesn't mean they can't impact. They can. If it's huge variance, they will come into play. Now also, just during this, if you have a look through the rest of the various pieces, inflation forecasts out of the RBNZ, they are out later. Don't forget, we do have the RBNZ tomorrow. But as you come through the European session, there's really nothing on the radar. We do have some, I was going to say some European heads speaking, but that's you want to keep an eye on those. The Red Book, go back 20 years, 15, 20 years, that was pretty good. The Red Book was an event. These days, it's been pushed aside, and then they've got those JOLTS, job openings, that can randomly sort of come into play. So not a hell of a lot to focus on, right? You should be keeping up to date with the central bank and political events that are coming out for the major pairs. And I'll just refresh this page. When there are no economic numbers coming out, you do want to keep an eye on this, because it will give you a good insight into what is actually happening across the board. And as I said, there's the 12th. There's a fair bit of talking going on around the markets here. So if you're looking down through the events, so we might have, I've got Carney speaking here. I'll have to update the calendar on that. And you've got ECB policymakers, German ministers, and some Bowman there, one of the Fed board members speaking as well. So there's some things happening behind the scenes, as you'd expect, in this geopolitical environment we're in. But just follow what you can. Focus on the main thing that you can follow is the currencies, right? And where they are going with regards the direction technically, and then follow the fundamental releases. That's why we like the numbers. The political speeches and things are ambiguous. They're hard to follow, and hard to translate. So, excuse me. So that's what we've got to focus on at the moment. All right, guys, pretty rangy session, continuation of the trends for my liking, and we'll see how things pan out. Have a great day. We'll see you in the 247 trade zone. Cheerio.